I stepped off the bus at the end of the road leading into the small coastal town in Oregon, the place I'd left 10 years ago without a single goodbye. The air hadn't changed, salt from the ocean mixing with the sharp scent of pine from the deep woods. Waves crashing in the distance like a soundtrack that never skips a beat. I'm Olivia Harper now, 28, a journalist in New York. Chasing deadlines by day and unwinding with red wine at night. I never planned to come back here. Ever. But a letter from my father's lawyer about his estate dragged me home, like an invisible thread tying me to the past. Dad died 2 months ago. Cancer. He never called me, and I never called him. We'd been done for years, ever since the day I packed my bags and vanished from this town without a word to anyone. Especially not to her. I dragged my suitcase down Main Street, past the weathered wooden houses with peeling paint. Everything felt claustrophobic compared to New York. I needed coffee before facing the old house and all the memories I'd tried to bury. Harbor's Edge was still there, same corner. Same carved wooden sign shaped like a wave. I pushed the door open, the bell jingled like a greeting from another life. And there she was. Maya. She was behind the counter, wiping a white ceramic mug, her long black hair tied back loosely, a few strands falling across her forehead. 10 years had passed. But she was still so beautiful it hurt. Those deep brown eyes had gained a quiet steadiness, like the ocean after a storm. She wore an oversized plaid shirt. Sleeves rolled up, revealing the strong lines of her forearms, marks of a potter, I guessed. I'd heard whispers around town that Maya had a small studio by the shore now. She looked up when the bell rang. Our eyes met. The world stopped. Olivia? Her voice was soft, not quite a question, more like a surprised whisper. The mug paused in her hand, coffee dripped onto the counter. I froze in the doorway, suitcase still clutched tight. My heart pounded like it might break free. 10 years. 10 years I tried to forget that smile, the way she tilted her head when she listened. The way her hand used to find mine on summer nights by the ocean. I'd left her without explanation because I was scared of what I felt, scared of myself. Scared this small town would swallow us whole. Maya, my voice cracked. Hey, hi. She set the mug down, slowly wiped her hands on her apron. No smile. No anger. Just those eyes, calm and searching, trying to read everything I'd hidden for a decade. Been a while, she said evenly, but I could hear the old hurt underneath. You're here because of your dad, right? I nodded, afraid to step closer. A few feet separated us, but it felt like an ocean. I wanted to run to her. To explain everything, how terrified I'd been when I realized I loved her more than friendship. How I fled to New York to try to make myself normal. But the words stuck in my throat. Can I get a cappuccino? I managed. Forcing my voice steady as I walked to the counter. She nodded, turned to make it. I sat on a stool, watching every move. Those graceful hands, once doodling in my high school notebooks, now expertly frothing milk. The smell of coffee filled the air. But it couldn't cover her familiar scent, clay and salt water. When she slid the cup in front of me, our fingers brushed. Just for a second. But it sent electricity up my spine. She didn't pull away immediately, her eyes locked on mine. Why did you leave without saying anything, Olivia? She asked quietly. No accusation, just curiosity. Like dropping a stone into still water and watching the ripples spread. I swallowed, staring into my coffee. I didn't know how to say it. It was the truth. And the biggest lie. The symphony of strangers had begun again, and this time, I knew I couldn't run. After that cappuccino, we didn't talk much. Maya wiped the counter, I sipped my drink. The air between us was thick, foggy with everything unsaid. I was about to stand and leave, head to the old house, deal with paperwork and ghosts, when she spoke first. You free this afternoon? Her voice was light. Like wind through the open window. The beach is nice today. Want to walk? I looked at her, surprised by the invitation. 10 years apart. And she was asking to walk like nothing had happened. But I nodded. I couldn't say no. Not now. Sure. We agreed to meet at 3 by the trailhead to the beach. I spent the rest of the morning at the old house, opening windows to let the sea air chase out the musty smell. Everything was the same, the worn sofa, the family photos on the mantel, me and Dad. But never Mom, she'd left when I was little. I didn't stay long. I wasn't ready. When I reached the beach, Maya was already there. Hands in the pockets of her faded jeans, thin wool jacket fluttering in the breeze. She stared out at the water, black hair whipping around her face. For a moment. She looked exactly like the 18-year-old girl who used to stand here with me, dreaming of a future we were too afraid to name. Let's go, she said when she saw me, giving me the first real smile since I'd returned. We walked along the damp sand, waves lapping gently at our feet. Late fall in Oregon was chilly, but the air was so clean it sharpened everything. We were quiet for a long time, just the sound of waves and wind. Then memories started spilling out, unstoppable. Remember that night we snuck out here to watch The Notebook? Maya asked suddenly, a hint of nostalgia in her voice. You cried the whole time. I pretended I wasn't. I laughed softly, even though it hurt. Yeah, well, you called it corny. But I caught you wiping your eyes. We'd spent so many summer nights like that, stretched out on an old blanket, watching movies on my beat-up laptop. Eating burnt popcorn Maya made. The accidental touches that stopped being accidental. My fingers brushing the back of her hand, and she didn't pull away. Goodbye hugs that lasted too long. And our first kiss, awkward, sweet, under a sky full of stars the summer we turned 18. I remembered every second. The way my heart raced when I realized I didn't just love Maya as my best friend anymore. But then fear took over. This small town, the sideways looks. The whispers. My dad, what would he say? He'd once called people like me sick, a disgrace. I chose the easiest path, I ran. Left Maya without a word. Walking beside her now, I realized the pain wasn't just mine. Maya avoided my eyes when we talked about the past. She told me about her pottery studio. Short trips to Portland to sell her work, her quiet life here. But whenever I tried to ask about the years after I left, she changed the subject. Are you angry with me? I finally asked, my voice almost lost in the wind. Maya stopped, stared at the horizon. It took her a long time to answer. Yeah, she said quietly. At first, I was furious. Then heartbroken. Then I got used to it. You disappeared like you'd never existed, Olivia. No call, no text. I waited. My throat tightened. I'm sorry. I didn't know how to face it. She turned to me, old hurt flickering in those brown eyes. Face what? Me? Or yourself? The question hung between us like shattered glass on the sand, sharp, impossible to piece together right away. I wanted to tell her everything, the nights in New York I cried missing her, the fleeting relationships I used to fill the void. How I convinced myself running was right. But the words choked me. Instead, I stepped closer until our shoulders touched. Maya didn't move away. We kept walking. The space between us still full of unanswered questions and feelings compressed for 10 years. But at least this time, I wasn't running. The ocean kept its steady rhythm, trying to erase old footprints in the sand. Some things, no matter how strong the tide, can't be completely washed away. We were on the trail back to town when the sky suddenly darkened. Black clouds rolled in fast from the sea. Seconds later, rain poured down in sheets. Cold wind cut through our thin jackets. I shivered. Your house is closer. Maya shouted over the roar, grabbing my wrist and pulling me along. We ran hand in hand. Rain stinging our faces, soaking hair and clothes. I didn't resist. Her grip made everything else fade. We burst into my dad's old house and slammed the door. Inside was dim, only faint light from the windows. Rain hammered the roof, gutters overflowed in chaotic music. We stood in the hallway, breathing hard. Water dripping from our hair onto the wood floor. I looked at Maya. Her clothes clung to her, plaid shirt soaked. Outlining soft curves I'd once stolen glances at in high school changing rooms. Black hair plastered to her face, water tracing paths down her cheeks. Those brown eyes glowed in the low light, wet and brilliant. "I'll get towels," I stammered, turning toward the stairs. But Maya held my hand. Her fingers were ice cold. But the grip was warm. "Don't go," she said softly. "Stay here. The rain's too heavy, you'll just get everything upstairs wet too." We slid down to the floor. Backs against the wall. No towels, no dry clothes. Just the rain and our breathing. The small, damp space felt strangely safe. I don't know who started talking first, maybe me. Maybe her. But then the dam broke. "Maya. I'm sorry," I whispered, voice shaking. I was terrified. When I realized I was in love with you, not just as friends, I panicked. My dad was so conservative. He'd called people like us sick, a family shame. I was scared he'd find out, scared the whole town would know. Scared of myself. Those feelings were too big, too real. I didn't know what to do. So I ran. I thought if I left, I could forget. Become normal. I bowed my head. Tears mixing with rain on my cheeks. But I never forgot. 10 years, and I thought about you every day. I was a coward, Maya. Too much of a coward to even say goodbye. Silence. Only rain. Then Maya spoke, voice thick. "I loved you too. Olivia," she said so quietly I had to lean in. "For a long time. Since that night on the beach when you kissed me. I loved you with everything I had. When you left, I fell apart. I waited, for a letter, a call, anything. I wondered what I'd done wrong. If you'd ever really loved me. But you never came back. And I had too much pride to chase someone who didn't want to stay." She gave a sad smile, tears rolling down. "I kept living. Pottery, the café. Trying to fill the hole you left. But every time I looked at the ocean, I thought of you. Every piece I made, I wondered if you'd like it. I waited 10 years, Olivia. 10 years." Her words cut deep. I reached out, trembling, and wiped a tear from her cheek. She didn't pull away. She looked straight into my eyes, red-rimmed but fierce. "I don't want you to wait anymore," I whispered. "I'm here. I'm not running." Maya took my hand and pressed it to her chest. I felt her heart racing, matching mine. "I don't want to wait anymore either," she said. Then she leaned in, and her lips met mine. This kiss wasn't like our first at 18, clumsy, sweet, uncertain. This was the kiss of two people who'd lost each other for a decade, who'd finally spoken the pain, who'd watched the last walls crumble. Rain still poured outside. But inside that old house, there was only the warmth of bodies finding each other again. I held Maya tight, tears and rain mixing on our lips. No more fear. No more running. Just love, late, but still whole. The rain had stopped hours ago, but we stayed in the old house until late. We lay together on the worn sofa. Wrapped around each other like we were afraid to let go and lose it all again. Second kiss, third, countless more, each tasting of salt tears and sweet forgiveness. That night we did nothing more than whisper long-buried words of love and fall asleep in each other's arms. I woke first the next morning. Weak sunlight filtered through dusty curtains, falling across Maya's sleeping face. She looked peaceful, long lashes fluttering with each breath. I watched her for a long time and realized, we weren't those 18-year-old girls anymore. Time had changed us in completely different ways. The days that followed, we tried to really see each other's lives. Maya took me to her pottery studio, a small wooden building on the edge of town overlooking the sea. It smelled of wet clay and glaze. Vases, bowls, tea sets lined the shelves. She sat at the wheel. Strong yet delicate hands shaping a lump of clay into an elegant curving vase. I watched, mesmerized. "This is where I belong," she said without looking up. "I love the slowness here. Waking to the sound of waves, coffee at the café, then working in the studio. Simple, but it's enough." I nodded. But a quiet worry crept in. My life in New York was the opposite. I told her about long days at the newsroom, 7 a.m. meetings, crushing deadlines. Late dinners with colleagues in loud bars. My tiny Brooklyn apartment, crowded subways, the rush of seeing my byline on the front page. I'd climbed the ladder with ruthless ambition, sometimes stepping over people, sometimes sacrificing sleep for a lead. "Are you happy?" Maya asked one afternoon as we sat on her studio porch watching the sunset. I was quiet for a long time. "I thought so. I'm successful. Independent. I have everything I dreamed of when I left." "But are you actually happy?" she pressed gently, but sharp. I couldn't answer right away. Because the truth was, in all my years in New York, I'd never felt complete. Friends, flings, professional respect, but alone at night, empty. I'd built the life I thought I wanted. But sitting beside Maya now, I saw what it had been missing. Maya had chosen to stay. She belonged here, to foggy mornings, neighbors waving on the street. Community nights at the local pub. She didn't dream of big city lights. She found peace and quiet, in making beautiful things with her own hands. We weren't the girls dreaming of a shared future on the beach anymore. We were women with two entirely different worlds. One evening after a simple dinner at her café, we sat on the beach like old times. Cold wind blew, I pulled my jacket tighter. "Maya," I said softly, "do you ever wonder what things would be like if I hadn't left?" She looked at me, eyes reflecting moonlight on the water. "I used to wonder all the time. But now, I don't know anymore, Olivia. We've changed too much." Her words were a gentle but deep cut. I took her hand, held tight. "So, what do we do?" My voice shook. Maya didn't answer right away. She just rested her head on my shoulder, and we sat listening to the waves. Two worlds trying once more to touch. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. But this time, I was ready to face it. The following days felt like a beautiful, fragile dream. We gave each other every moment we could, mornings waking tangled together in the old house, afternoons wandering the beach. Long nights by the fireplace with wine and kisses that never felt like enough. Our love was deeper now, not the secretive, innocent passion of 18. But the fierce desire of grown women who knew what they wanted and were willing to give everything. I watched Maya at her wheel, clay-smudged hands still heartbreakingly beautiful. She watched me answering work emails on my laptop, eyes full of affection and quiet worry. We made love like we were making up for 10 lost years, slow, intense. Memorizing every breath, every touch. Each time we came undone, I held her close and whispered that I loved her, that this time would be different. But reality started creeping in. One evening, after a call from my editor in New York, a huge investigative piece that could take my career to the next level, I sat silently on the porch, staring into the dark sea. Maya came out, wrapped her arms around me from behind. "You have to go back, don't you?" she asked softly, no blame, just acceptance. I squeezed her hands. I don't know. I don't want to. But you will, Maya said, certain. That job matters to you. New York is where you belong now. I turned to face her. In the dim light spilling from the house, her face was beautiful in a way that hurt. What about you? Have you ever thought about leaving here? Coming with me? She was quiet for a long time. Then shook her head. I've pictured it, she said. Me in New York, skyscrapers, constant noise, no ocean, no studio, no quiet mornings. I wouldn't be me anymore, Olivia. This place raised me, healed me after you left. I can't abandon it. I don't want to become someone else just to be with you. Her words sliced slowly into my heart. I knew she was right. And I knew I couldn't leave New York either. The career I'd bled for, the connections. The frantic pace that ran in my veins, it was part of who I was now. If I stayed, I'd wither, become a resentful shadow of myself. We'd gone too far down separate paths. My silence back then, my choice to run, had pushed us into worlds that no longer truly overlapped. That night we lay together but didn't sleep. I rested my head on her chest, listening to her steady heartbeat. Is love enough? I whispered into the dark. Maya stroked my hair, voice trembling slightly. I used to think so. I waited 10 years because I believed love could conquer anything. But now I get it. No matter how big the love, it can't force someone to change who they are. We love each other, Olivia. So much. But we're not heading the same direction anymore. I started crying. Tears soaked her shirt. She cried too, but held me tighter, clinging to the last warmth. The next morning, we barely spoke. I packed. Maya drove me to the bus stop. We stood there hand in hand, looking at each other one last time. You'll be okay? I asked. Voice breaking. Maya gave a sad, strong smile, eyes red but steady. I'll be okay. You? I nodded, even though I knew I never really would be. The bus arrived. I boarded, took the window seat. Maya stood on the small platform, wind lifting her black hair. As the bus pulled away, she grew smaller, then disappeared around the bend. The distance between us wasn't the miles from Oregon to New York. It was the distance between two people who'd chosen different lives. And love, no matter how fierce, couldn't bridge it. I closed my eyes, tears sliding down. This time, I wasn't running. I was simply walking my own path. Carrying the ache and the love for Maya forever. The day I left, the Oregon sky was unusually clear. No clouds. Just a gentle sea breeze carrying that familiar salty scent. I stood at the old bus stop, suitcase at my feet, ticket in hand. Maya faced me in the gray sweater I'd always loved, hair tied back, deep brown eyes no longer red from crying. No tears. No blame. Just the gentle silence of two people who'd said everything that needed saying. I'll miss you, I said quietly, voice steady now. Maya smiled, soft, genuine. I'll miss you too. But I'll be okay. So will you. We stepped closer and hugged. Long, tight, like we were passing the last of our warmth to each other. I felt her heartbeat against mine, that scent of clay and ocean still clinging to her like the day we met again. In that embrace was forgiveness, not just for each other, but for ourselves. Forgiveness for the scared 18-year-old who ran. Forgiveness for the girl who waited in vain. I understood now. This reunion wasn't meant to rekindle the past or force two diverged lives back together. It was simply to close the door on all the what-ifs that had haunted us for 10 years. What if I hadn't left? What if she'd followed? What if we'd been braver? Now those what-ifs were replaced by understanding that we'd loved each other truly, that we'd once belonged to each other. And that letting go was the fullest way to love now. The bus pulled up. I released her, looked into her eyes one final time. Take care of yourself, I said. You too, she replied, voice warm. Go, Olivia. Go where you belong. I boarded, sat by the window. Maya stood on the little platform. Hands in pockets, calm as the morning sea. The bus rolled forward. I watched her shrink, then vanish behind the pines lining the road. It didn't hurt like the day I left 10 years ago. No torment, no regret. Just a strange lightness spreading through my chest. We had loved. We had lost each other. And now we had truly let go, not because the love ended, but because we loved enough to want the other to be happy in their own way. I closed my eyes, head against the cool glass. Ahead was the long road back to New York, to the life I'd chosen. Behind was the small coastal town in Oregon, and Maya, the most beautiful, painful, and complete love I'd ever known. My heart felt lighter. And I knew hers did too.